Welcome back to one of my favorite sports podcasts, Frizz and the Grizz, with your host Trudeau and my guy, Keith Frizzy Frizz.
Hello and welcome to the Frizz and the Grizz podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we are doing on Tuesday, June 18th. That is the intro for the Hoop Collective podcast, great NBA podcast. I figured I'd fuck around, try some different intros, steal from people, see what's good. I thought I nailed it. But hey, we are going to talk about the NBA today. Finals just ended last night. Banner 18 is up at TD Garden. Maybe not this moment, but it will be up soon. Celtics are crowned NBA champions. We'll cover the Celtics. We'll cover the Mavs. All things NBA this season and beyond. But first, D, what it do?
What up, what up, what up, what up? What it do, baby? I had to do that, man. I got this little toy, got a little update. I had to see if the air horns worked. Happy Tuesday, man. How's everything going for you?
We have unleashed a monster on this show. With you and the soundboard, I feel like you're going to be going off. Hit me up with a couple more. Show the people what you're dealing with today.
All it takes is for you to say something dumb and I don't understand it. Hit you with little crickets. You know, if you do something nice and I can actually applaud you. Get the crowd going for that. More importantly, if I want to sound like I'm a robot, because that was so long. I don't know. See, I don't even know the timing for all these, but if I wanted to sound like a robot because like I'm, you know, when you do your truth tellers, maybe we give you one of these.
In the middle of doing all this,
I love that, man.
what the NBA believes is true or not.
Like we could do all those.
I wish I had that voice. It reminds me of what's that show, Drugs Inc., where they have the. You never seen Drugs Inc.? Are you serious? Oh man, I gotta get you on Drugs Inc. It's the best show. I think it's on like Discovery or something. It's basically they go like behind the scenes of the drug world, you know, cocaine, heroin, whatever. And they always have somebody that's in a gang or something that they pay to come on the show, and you know he's blacked out and he's talking like that. Give me the Drugs Inc. sound again.
You go ahead.
You do it.
Oh, okay. So I was trying to show these drugs, but this guy maybe you
Yeah, no, we could do that all
I
day.
love that, man. That's dope. But hey, we have a fun show, D. But before we get into the actual sports, man, how was your week? I know it was Father's Day this past weekend. How was your Father's Day?
Week was good, man. Weekend was phenomenal. You know, I got to spend Father's Day with the little ones. I was very happy. We spent it with my wife. My parents came down for the week. They're here currently. I actually went to Top Golf on Saturday too. There's a Top Golf right out in Raleigh. Love that, man. Like I feel like I don't know if I like Top Golf more than golfing, but like I just might because you get the same amount of swings in, right? Like you're just out there swinging the shit out of your driver, your 5-iron. You're not putting, obviously, but then you also get to eat and drink at the same time. So it's like the best of both worlds where like I ate so many wings and then I was like, oh, it's my turn to get up. Like got up, couple swings, and then like sat back down my fat ass, ate some more wings. So like what more could you want while you're technically golfing?
I love that. I actually got I'm trying to get into the golf game. I'm not a golfer yet. I'm interested though.
I didn't say I was a golfer. I just said that
you can golf. You have the ability to golf. So I got a lesson, some golf lessons. So I'm gonna get my game up. Maybe we can play around someday.
Yeah, when I come up, I'll make sure to bring the clubs.
All right, I dig it. Let's talk about the NBA Finals because it was maybe not exciting for everyone, but for up here in the Northeast, it was a very exciting time. D, they did it. Can I start with the most ridiculous thing of this whole finals?
Go ahead.
This isn't even like being kind to anyone. I just want to be a piss on everyone just to start the NBA Finals coverage. Did you see what Jason Tatum did, which was the most predictable thing of all?
I've heard once the game was over, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really watch too much of like the recap and whatnot, but I'm sure you either have the sound or you're gonna tell me what he did.
I have the sound. He was asked a very benign question after the game, and this is what went on.
Jason, just what's it feel like to finally be a champion?
Oh my God. It's a surreal feeling. We did it. We did it! Oh.
Now that sounds, I don't know, man. It sounds a lot familiar to this.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible! We did it. We did it!
Bro, could you be any more lame after winning the championship?
So I'm not gonna social media, like they don't know what they want, right? So I've read and seen so many posts today of people dogging on JT. Like the man got his championship. Let him celebrate however he wants. But I've seen so many things of people like he hasn't had an original thought in his entire life. Meaning he did this, the whole stealing the KG thing. He also said what they gonna say about us now. Curry said that a couple of years ago, and Angel reset it in the national championship a couple of years ago. And then a lot of people are like, we're just waiting for him to take the picture with the trophy sitting. Yeah, the Kobe bag. It's like I don't care how the man celebrates, but like social media is getting on him for the way that he's like going about it, calling him a cornball and whatnot. It's like, let the man's happy. The 26-year-old winning an NBA championship. Like, let him celebrate.
We did it. We did it.
I'm sorry we started there. I'm sorry, but hey, no. To be fair, he didn't do what people wanted him to do in the finals, which is score 50 points a game. Which, whatever. You know what? I think Windhorse had a perfect quote on his podcast today. Is like, when you win the championship, you don't have to apologize to anyone.
Nope.
And they did exactly what they had to do. They won the championship. He did, however, Tatum lead his team in points, rebounds, and assists, which was super impressive. I think the most important and most impressive thing about this was everyone wanted Tatum to be this alpha dog superstar because that's kind of what he was painted out to be. And he was humble and he did what he had to do to win, which was sacrifice the finals MVP to Jaylen Brown, which shout out to Jaylen Brown. He was awesome in this series. And he did it unselfishly. And that's kind of how the Celtics team was throughout the playoffs. They played unselfish basketball. They played as a team and they were just super unstoppable. On the MVP things, I know you want to talk about the finals MVP. For me, definitely was Jaylen Brown's MVP. I think the vote split was 7-4 between him and Jason Tatum. Obviously, Tatum leading in the three main categories was impressive. But I think you could even extend this out to a guy like Drew Holiday, who was excellent all series. I think he shot 50, 40, 90 for the series and played awesome defense. It's just this team is just so well put together.
So the you said it was 7-4, so that means it would be 11 voters for it. I wouldn't have. I think Wendy might have said this, and I kind of agreed with him too this morning when he was like, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye if it was 6-4-1, 6 for Jason. Excuse me, 6 for Jaylen, 4 for Jason, and 1 for Drew, just because of the way he played. And we said it on this. I was like, I think he played just as important of a factor being on the floor as Jason or Jaylen did, because he helped slow down 1 through 4. Anybody that he guarded up against, he made it harder for them to obviously score. And he impacted the game, something that you can't put in a box score, right? Like he wasn't getting steals. He wasn't getting blocks. Derek White had more blocks. So like he wasn't doing those things, but he was making Luka take tough step back shots. He was making Kyrie have to pull up. He wasn't able to finish at the hoop. If Derek Jones got the ball, he'd do the same thing. If I think there was another wing that they utilized, he was just making people feel uncomfortable with the ball on offense, and he impacted the game just as much as other people putting the basket in the hoop, putting the ball in the hoop in the first place.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the Celtics as a whole. I do want to start with one thing.
Yeah,
we talk about Tatum, Brown, and Drew Holiday, Finals MVP. I'm saying this facetiously. I don't mean this in a serious way. Brad Stevens.
yeah,
First Finals MVP for what he did as a GM. I think, we always thought, at least in Boston, like Brad Stevens as a genius as a coach, because he was widely thought of when he was coaching as the best coach in the NBA as far as drawing up inbounds plays. Like he has a very surreal mind for basketball, and to see him go from successful college coach at Butler to successful NBA coach with the Celtics, and then replace a guy in Danny Ainge who built this team, and I think he was he the one who created the first version of the 07-08 Celtics?
With all the trades, I believe so.
Right.
I think they called him Trader Danny for a reason.
I think Brad Stevens has surpassed anyone's most wildest expectations as the president of basketball operations up here.
You got a championship in 3 years, yes.
And he made trade after trade after trade, just movement or trade, whatever. They all just hit, which is wild. Going back to the Derek White trade, I think they traded away Josh Richardson in a first and a swap for Derek White, who's been incredible. Playing like a top 40-ish player throughout the playoffs. He gets picks for Kristaps Porzingis, who had the highest net rating on the Celtics this year.
Mm-hmm.
he trades away the heart and soul of the team and Marcus Smart, and everyone's losing their minds. Only
to bring in Drew
Holiday, like
NBA champion Drew Holiday, like the veteran leadership that everybody said the team need. The veteran leader that everyone thought Marcus Smart was. Drew was not on the microphone. He was not hoorahing. He just let his play be like, I know what it takes to win a championship. And now he's a 2-time NBA champion.
I don't want to besmirch Marcus Smart that much. I think the big difference between Marcus Smart, and Drew Holiday.
Smart doesn't know his role.
I was going to say that Drew Holiday is a 6-time All-Star, like multi-time All-Star at this point. He's won a championship. And he was willing to take a step back behind everyone and be on some nights the 5th option on offense and just playing in the dunker spot most of the season, like as a guard. And to have that pedigree and be able to humble yourself to that level, that I don't think that's the thing Marcus Smart could have ever done. Not to say that he didn't want to win, but he always saw himself as a guy who can make shots and make passes and want the ball in his hands.
Marcus always wanted to be that guy. Game was on the line. They were like, let's draw. He was like, draw it up for me. Although we got Jason, although we got Jalen, draw it up for me. And it's like, that's you lived and died with the 3 with Marcus Smart and tough decision making, especially when they had to point him they had to make him the point guard.
Yeah.
And you live with, some games he'd go off for 12, 13 assists. Some games he'd go off for 6, 7, 8 turnovers. And Drew Holiday, albeit there's really no point guard on this team, he's able to help just calm the offense and defense and facilitate properly or play off ball. I don't know how many times we saw Drew Holiday get to the paint, stop and hit somebody open, like countless times for open threes, or like you said, Luka's sliding off because he's technically the 4th option on the team. He slides right into that dunker spot. KP, Jalen, or Jason fake up, and you just pass it to Drew Holiday for an easy layup. Like that happened so many times in this finals.
I did get sidetracked. I want to go back to Drew Holiday, but just back to Brad Stevens really quick. Even some of like the fringe moves, they traded for I think he was like Memphis's backup or 3rd string and Xavier Tillman. Like even like a fringe move like that. Like, was Xavier Tillman a big part of the Celtics this year? No, but he played meaningful minutes in Game 3. That got them
to Game 3. He had the 3 of the night.
Yeah, but he played meaningful minutes and just Brad Stevens, time after time, just making the right moves. I can't think of, and I'm sure there's like a big miss that he had, but like every move has seemed to just work for him.
I'm gonna try not to sound like a hater with this, but it probably will come off as hater talk. How is it that and again, this has got to be a tip of the cap to Brad Stevens. Every team in the NBA is looking for shooters, and they have everybody on their team that can fucking shoot. But teams like the Lakers have nobody that can spot up shooting. Like the Celtics have 1 through 15. Everybody that pulls up on this team can shoot a catch and shoot shot. And there are so many teams in the NBA that are searching for that because they have the guy that can get to the hoop, a la Minnesota, but doesn't have anybody to kick it out to splash a 3. But the Celtics have legit, I'm looking at their roster, outside of people that didn't play a single minute, everybody that got in a game in the finals can shoot a 3. Every single one of them. It not just like we'll give him a 3. It's like, oh crap, we have to close out on this guy.
Right. Let's just think about. So obviously the Jays, they're being drafted high in the draft. They shouldn't count in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Porzingis, I don't think he could always stretch the floor, but 2 things. Number 1,
Game 2.
What?
This is what would we not watch Game 2 together?
What about Game 2?
Where he splashed 6 threes?
No. I'm agreeing that he is a 3-point shooter, but I'm saying I don't think he's always thought of that way. He's thought of a player who wants to play in the post, and that's something that he had an issue with in Dallas, where he wanted to be more of a back to the basket big man, and I think they had to do a lot of convincing for him to change his game and be more of a perimeter player. So and with his injury, so I'm just saying this is how they got these guys, because he had a ding for injuries and he wasn't always a willing 3-point spacer, like a 5-out guy. Obviously, Al's super old. He took a little bit of a discount to come back to the Celtics and come, reunite after the Sixers issues. We're talking about like some of their bench guys who can stretch the floor. I mean, Peyton Pritchard's like an undersized little white guy, and everyone's going to pass him in the draft. Same thing with Sam Hauser. I mean, he looks they're unathletic white guys, but they improve defensively. They can catch and shoot, and like they're not that big of a liability on defense.
No, well, the Celtics play great shade defense, force to the help. You can don't give up the three and force your man to the help.
I feel like. Have you ever seen the movie Moneyball?
No, I know. I heard it's a really good baseball movie, but I haven't watched it.
The idea with Moneyball is like historically when it came to scouting, people were old school. Like, yeah, he's got a nice swing, good stance, big body. Like it was just like eyeing players, like kind of like getting a feel for what they do. And then Billy Bean was like super into the numbers analytics and like looked at scouting and players differently, like how they fit, like an analytical perspective. I have a feeling we're going to look at this like 20 years from now and be like, oh, Brad Stevens was on to some sort of like analytical thing that the rest of the league slept on, because like you said, they seem to just find these guys who fit all the needs perfectly that the rest of the league are passing up on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're finding value in ways other general managers and other front offices are not at this point.
And it's value that you can keep, because again, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get into the what's next, but like this entire team can come back.
Yeah.
I don't think they could. I don't think they have to lose a single person, which means you pay your top players, right? You have to pay Jalen and Jason. Then you have that second tier player, which is Drew, Derek, and KP under manageable contracts. And then you have your role players that you've drafted. That's how you build a franchise. It's exactly how Golden State started to win their championships. It's how we all thought Denver was built the right way, but they picked up a few, hands-on players. The Celtics are in a spot where it's like, if they move the money the right way, they could be around for quite some time. We can't speak about it in 2 years, but at least next year, they're bringing back the entire team.
Yes, yeah, so they can bring everyone back next year. And I know the new rules go into place next year with the second apron. However, my understanding is that those big cap hits for Tatum and Brown will not go into effect next year. So they have,
no.
What's that?
2 years from now is when they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, so they'll be in trouble in 2 years. They'll have to make some decisions about who to keep and who to let go. But at least next year, they're in a damn good spot to run it back. And I don't know what type of moves they could make if they would want to, but I really like what they have going on. And they'd be just as well off staying pat. I mean, it depends on what the biggest thing for me is like Al Horford.
He's the only person. I think he leaves. You go out on top.
I think there's been some indication that he might come back for another year, which I don't know.
You put him on a minutes restriction. I think you get the most out of him for that, but I don't think it would hurt them if he were gone. And I honestly don't think it would be a bad thing if he retired. You got to think of it. He's now 2 or 3. I can't remember if it was 3, but I know it was at least 2-time national champion at Florida. Now he's an NBA champion. 18 years in the league, damn near 40 years old. Like, he's up there in age. What else do you need to do now, right? Like, you got the championship. So he could come back just to like help spill people, but like you're gonna need to find a piece. I don't see him being the Giannis stopper like he was, 4 years ago when people crowned him that. I don't think with these bigger bodies coming back, rolling out a 40-year-old Al Horford is gonna help you. You know what I'm saying? Like Giannis, Embiid, a bunch of guys that were missing, Julius Randle, a bunch of guys that were missing this year will be coming back next year, and Horford didn't have to deal with any of those guys.
Yeah. I think if you're the Celtics, your biggest concern is probably your front court with Horford, Porzingis. Like, Horford's getting a little older. I don't know if he's going to come back, and if he does come back, he's been awesome, man. I don't know. He's like 50 years old right now.
He's been good.
He's probably going to be close to 60 next year, but he's been great. I just don't know what it's going to look like. And they got lucky with Porzingis this year. He's been healthy, relatively healthy. I know he missed most of the playoffs, but the regular season he was relatively healthy. He obviously missed a good chunk of the playoffs and games, 3 and 4 in the finals. But, if Porzingis is out again and Al Horford either retires or takes a step back, there's not a ton behind them.
Yeah.
I forget the big goofy white guy they got at center.
Cornette.
Yeah. You can't trust Cornette, and Tillman's not really a guy you can roll out there for more than 12 minutes. So that's their biggest hole they might want to look at. But this team is set, man. This team is set. Let's flip and go on the other side on the Mavericks and talk about the Mavericks a little bit. Just, I don't know. What do you think went wrong?
One was, I know the easiest thing to pick out is people saying Luka's defense. I'm not going to say that's a major issue. I know that it was part of the issue for them to win this finals, but I don't think it was the main. I want to say the biggest issue that bit them in the ass was Luka's, I won't say immaturity, but inability to go to the next play. And it hurt them in situations on offense. It hurt them in situations on defense. We both can agree that I think it cost them game 3. Where was it, game 3 or game 4? They won game 4. No, they won game 5. They won 4.
It was game 3 you're speaking of.
The numbers mess me all up. But game 3 at home with the momentum, just 3 careless fouls and just like a bit immature in the way that you handled getting those fouls and then complaining. And it's like, I'm not going to say like he's the reason they lost this series, because to tell you the truth, if he's not getting his 28, 8 and 8, they get swept. They're not in any game. They're not coming back. So like he's part of the reason why they were in these games, but he's also one of the main factors as to why they did lose 4-1.
Yeah, I mean, throughout these playoffs, Luka was incredible. I'm going to start with the good. He was incredible. I saw something crazy today that he's the first player ever, NBA history, all time, in the playoffs, to lead the playoffs in points, rebounds, assists, and steals.
Yes.
Which that's just incredible. And the steals
for those that are listening and watching, that is with a LeBron James in 2018 or 2016 against Golden State going 7.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind, in which LeBron in, I think, game 5 went off for like 40, 12, and 13. Like, they got beat 4-1 in the finals, and he, like, because I heard the same thing that you just said earlier today, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like that's how dominant, which is why you can kind of sit back with the defensive shit. You kind of be like, all right, he might get blown by, but he's also scoring, rebounding, and assisting. But go ahead.
So he's been incredible, and also he has been banged up.
Yes,
like ever since round 1 against the Clippers, his knees have been like dust. They've been a mess. And then we learn later on that he has a rib thing where he has to get shots before the game. So he's doing a hell of a lot offensively and getting steals with a bum knee and the rib injury. That being said, the biggest knock on Luka throughout his career to this point has been the fact that he gets taken out of the game when things don't go his way and he thinks he's not getting the calls he deserves. He ends up by flopping to the floor, complaining to the refs, and not getting his ass back on defense, which puts everyone else around him in a terrible situation because they're playing 5-on-4. Mm-hmm. And the worst team to do that against is the Celtics, because they're going to make you pay with a 3. If they're not going to take a layup 2, they're going to splash a 3 in your face. And that happened time and time again. And he's getting frustrated. And going back to game 3, yes, the last foul, the foul out, was stupid, right? He tried to take a charge when Jaylen Brown was clearly by him and he wasn't set. But even before that, I think they're in the third quarter. He only has 2 fouls, and he thought he deserves a foul in offense. They get the ball back. He's pissed off, and he takes a stupid ass hack foul, frustration foul on Al Horford.
With Horford at him saying that he landed in space or hit his arm. Yep.
And just in things like that, in the moment, like you don't think it's a big deal, but that cost them probably the game, because they had momentum going into the last 4 or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. They were coming back and going to potentially take a lead on the Celtics. If he doesn't do that stupid ass foul, we might be looking at 2-2 going back to Boston for game 5. And with all those things said, I think the quote of the day last week was after game 3 with Windhorst going off on Luka, and I think he encapsulated perfectly. I have the quote here, and I think it pretty much encapsulates exactly what you said, D.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect that Luka fell onto the ground there in an unacceptable position to put himself in with 4 minutes left with 5 fouls, and then immediately looks at the bench and says, "You better bleeping challenge it," as if it's the bench's fault that he just made a terrible play. I'm standing here in the Mavericks tunnel. Over there is the Celtics tunnel. That's where the winners are. If Luka's ever going to be a winner coming out of this tunnel here, he is going to have to use what's happened in this finals as a learning experience. His defensive performance is unacceptable. He is a hole on the court. The Celtics are attacking him. They are ahead in this series because they have attacked him defensively. And you've got a situation here where Luka is complaining about the officiating. They have begged him. They have talked with him. They have pleaded with him. He is costing his team because of how he treats the officials. He's a brilliant player. He does so many things well. They are here because of how he did. His performance in this game is unacceptable, and the reason why the Mavericks are not going to win. He's got to get over this. And the fact that he came out after the game and blamed the officials showed me he's nowhere close yet. So maybe over the summer, somebody will get to him, because nobody with the Mavericks or anybody else in his life has. And that's where the Mavericks are at this point. They're never going to get to this tunnel with the trophy if he doesn't improve those aspects of his game.
Spot on. And I just think the biggest word here is professionalism, right? With Luka, it's about valuing every possession, every minute on the court. And not only that, but off the court. Because another big knock on Luka has always been his lack of conditioning, the way he comes into the season almost out of shape. I mean, you look at this man, he doesn't look like your prototypical NBA player, his body build. I think he wants to win, but he seems to me, and this might be just reading him wrong, and I might be a complete asshole for thinking this and saying this, but he's almost like one of those child prodigies where he's always just been so damn good and has excelled with little effort. And there are other people who have had to scrap, grind, and work to get to where they are to become superstars. Like your Giannis, he wasn't a very talented, highly touted guy. And I just don't know if Luka has that extra gear where he can get himself mentally and physically where he needs to be to win a championship.
I would have great sound, by the way. I watched that when Wendy went off. So I'm glad that you grabbed that.
That's scathing from Wendy, because he's always very kind and polite.
Mm-hmm. He plays the fence very well.
Yes.
So I would have agreed with you on June 12th when that game happened. I'm going to disagree with Wendy now, because there was something that happened between game 3 and game 4. Granted, they won game 4, but something happened where I bet you he caught wind of Wendy saying this, because he stopped. Let me rephrase that. He didn't stop, but he limited. Yeah, he limited the talking. He would look, he wanted to say something, and he'd be like, and he'd clap his hands and get back. And they won that game. And then, although they lost, obviously, last night, he did the same thing in a lot of situations where he didn't get a call, or he did get a foul, and it wasn't a foul that he thought it was. He would look back at the ref, and then he'd turn around and walk away. So I'm not saying that he's turning a new leaf, but he has the ability to do that. And I don't have the full sound, but I at least have the quote. One of the things that made me be like, all right, he wants this. At some point, he's going to learn. He's going to grow up. Reporter from obviously last night, high emotions. Anybody can blame anything that they want. Reporter, now that the series is over, how much were you actually hurting? Luka Doncic's response: it doesn't matter if I was hurt or how much I'm hurt. I was out there and I was trying to play. If I could play and we lost, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that he's grown, but that's the steps in the right direction. Taking ownership. He could have said, yeah, my rib or my knee. He could have said anything, right? And people are like, yeah, we see that. You're going to have surgery in the offseason. And he's like, no, it doesn't matter. If I'm out there, I can play. So I was able to play. And while I was playing, we lost. So just from that week, just game 3 to game 5. I'm not saying that he's changed because regular season game 64 on a Tuesday night when he doesn't get the call, who's to say he doesn't flop, right? But at least you know that he can have it. And that's a step in the right direction.
I will think he has changed when he has the LeBron moment after the finals. You know, when he was afraid to post up JJ Barea against the Mavs in the finals they lost. He was afraid to do that. And he trained in the offseason, trained hard. I don't forget what legend he trained with on his post moves. Like, he took that loss to heart and he came back a man possessed next year, right? I want to see Luka be the same guy. Take this loss to heart, train your ass off in the offseason, come back next year in shape with a focused mindset, because he is like a top 2-3 player in the world.
Yeah.
And he absolutely can bring a team to a championship, but his mind has to be in it not only during the season, but in the offseason when it's time to prepare his body. That's all I'm saying. And I want to see that.
His mentality has to catch up with his talent at the end of the day. And I think it can. He's also very young. And big shouts to other GBA guys that are watching. Appreciate you, Perfect, for the sub. Thank you for that on Twitch for those that are watching. Luka has the ability to grow into that. He's young. The man has been the kid, right? I could say that I'm 37 years old kid. The kid has been a professional athlete since he was 12. So, like, he's just been around this aspect of basketball for more than his entire life being alive, right? He's been more of a professional athlete than not being a professional athlete in his life. So he has time to still grow. And there are people that, like, we waited. We were like, oh, Devin Booker sat there and he watched and he said, damn, you know, when the Bucks won, he's like, oh, he's going to come back. And we see everybody else, Stephon Diggs, sitting there with the confetti falling down. He's going to come back. If there's one person in the league that I'd be like, this loss, I think, is going to make him mentally tapped to want to get back, I think it's Luka. I think he has that the same shit that Jokic had when he's like, okay, you guys want to laugh and say that I can't win? Watch this. Like, I don't have the sounder, I don't have the voice for it, but like, if I wanted to, I'd pull up with it. Maybe he sounds like this. Maybe Luka sounds like this.
At the end of the day, I'm gonna come back and win this championship.
I know he doesn't sound like that, but like, if I was able to make that sound Russian or Slovenian, then I could do that. But I honestly think there's something that's going to happen. He may have that moment this year because everybody's going to dog on him for his defense. Everybody's going to dog on him for him being out of shape. But I think he's going to sit back and be like, if I think I cost my team the championship, I'm going to make sure that this shit doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we can nitpick Luka for some of the mental lapses and not getting back on defense, complaining, but his team was not up for the task either.
No.
Kyrie seems to be shook. I don't know what the deal is with him. He seems to be shook in Boston. It's the ball. I didn't think there was anything to it, but it seems like there's a real thing with him in Boston playing at the Garden.
He can't get over it like the Celtics. Like, somebody's got to get over it. Boston's got to get over the fact that he played for
Boston
that team.
Boston will never get over it.
They can't. They won't ever. But like, they have to. Like, just get over it. You got your championship. So what? He stepped unlucky. Whatever. You're that mad because he stepped on the court that he has to play on twice a season. Like, he's gonna step on the court anyway. Doesn't matter. Anyways, Kyrie. Like, we joked. We were like, he's gonna walk in. He's gonna sage. Right. He's gonna do this. Like, I didn't think he actually was gonna carry that shit into the finals. I thought he'd be like, I've been here before. I have a championship and you guys don't. I can't wait to make this my stamping moment that I needed from my career, that everybody thought that I was Robin to LeBron's Batman. And he's still Robin. Like, he's still the guy that we were like, you can't win without LeBron. You have Luka, and you failed Luka terribly in this series. He shot awful. Granted, he had an incredible game 4. I'll give him that. Right, he played great at home in game 4.
And 3 was good, I think, too, right?
But in situations that we wanted Kyrie to be Kyrie, untucked Kyrie from the Cavs, but in his early heydays, we wanted that. He just didn't perform, and that hurt. Luka needed a wingman while he's out there on half a leg. He doesn't even have 2 full legs. He's out there on half a leg, a spleen that's bleeding internally, and he's getting punctured shots before at halftime. He needed that, and he just chose to not do that because he was stuck thinking, it's Boston. I got to beat Boston. Me personally, I have to show up for Boston. It's like, no, man, you need to show up for your team.
Yeah, I mean, even outside of Kyrie, this team was just not a good match.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you for being here. And yes, Kyrie let the Boston crowd get into his head.
He did. Every game in Boston, he was just completely off. But even outside of Kyrie and Luka, like this team's matching up like head to head against the Celtics. If you compare every player from one team to the other, they just didn't stack up. It was an uphill battle, and Luka was going to have to be absolutely incredible. Kyrie was going to have to be absolutely incredible for them to have a chance in the series. And Kyrie was just not incredible in Boston. I mean, if you think about the third best player in the Celtics, who would you name off as the third best player?
Drew
Holiday, Derek White, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's the top.
Whatever. We're comparing them to like a guy like PJ Washington, fourth best player. Daniel Gafford coming in versus KP or Derek White. It was a tough battle for the Mavs. I don't know where they go from here. Obviously, you have Luka and Kyrie as your centerpieces. You have to be feeling pretty good about yourself with Derek Lively. He's 20 years old. I think he was the youngest player to get a double-double of all time in the finals, which is a random stat. He hit a 3 in game.
Oh my goodness.
Game 4. So if this dude can develop and have some sort of, not even a 3-point shot, but just like being able to not just be a rim runner, what's up?
Oh, just because of the whole 3 thing. I know we were supposed to be serious.
No, I like being serious.
What caught you off guard more? Derek Lively hitting that 3 or Rudy Gobert with his step back jumper? Because I laughed at both of them, but I think I laughed more with Gobert.
I think more with Gobert.
What the hell is that? But like when Lively pulled up, everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? He cashed it. We're like, oh my God. Like you could have easily replaced the Steve Kerr when Curry did his like dribble 20 times and throw up when he's like, what the hell? And then he goes, oh my God, it went in. You could have just replaced Kerr with Jason Kidd because everybody's like, why are you shooting? Oh my God, it went in.
At least with Gobert, I have a sample size big enough to be like, this goofy MFer, there's no way. And I'm like, that's just ridiculous. With Derek Lively, I was like, can he do that? I guess he can do that. I don't know.
It was my first thought. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no.
The 3, I forgot all about it. But when he cashed, I was like, oh my God. I haven't laughed like this since Gobert took his step back mid-range in the Western Conference Finals.
But just going forward with like both teams, like just start with the Mavericks, right? I think there's some legitimacy here. After they made all their trades, after the All-Star break, after the deadline, this team was, as far as net rating, one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NBA. Obviously, they finished as a 5 seed, but they were trending upwards after they made their moves to add PJ Washington and Gafford. It's hard, though, to see them have that same sort of run to the finals that they did this year, just because the West is deep.
Yeah.
You can imagine some of these Western teams that they're competing against are going to get better.
Yep. And
their roster, while it is improved, there's still a lot to be desired. Like having Derek Jones Jr., having Gafford, like you don't have a ton of perimeter shooting. I know Washington can be an okay 3-point shooter, but he was pretty pathetic in the series. It's going to be hard. I don't know what moves they can realistically make. They will try to make moves, but they did spend a decent amount of assets to make the moves they made this year. On the plus side, if you're a Mavericks fan, you spend all these assets, maybe you don't make the finals again, but I think you have to sleep good at night knowing that you made the finals, and while it's not a great, like you don't get a banner for making the finals, that pretty much guarantees that like when Luka's time to sign his contract, he's probably going to re-up now.
Yeah. I mean, you could keep him long-term because of that. I think their roster is, I don't want to say that they peaked. I don't think that they're the Suns, right? When they made the finals, I think they have the chance of still being relevant each year, but they need another piece. They need another piece that's either I don't think you can go out there and get a big man because you got Lively, but you need another like 3-and-D wing and not just another 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guard, right? Like you need somebody, granted everybody needs it, right? but you need somebody that is a two-way, like actual wing that can spot up, that can hit you, that can post up. It's not easy to find out. Paul George is out there.
Everyone wants.
I understand that, but like that this is the thing that every team has the scorer. Every team has potentially the facilitator. Now every team is looking for that 3-and-D wing, right? Like that. The Celtics happen to have that with two of their players that they drafted. So like they're not looking for it. But everybody else is, because you're going to have to cover these guys, the beasts of the East, essentially.
The difficult part, if you're the Mavericks, is that you want to have as little non-shooters as possible, right? So let's say the Celtics. I know they have all guys who can shoot. Like Drew Holiday, I don't think he's a marksman, right? But with Al Horford and with Kristaps, you can have your five playing out and they're spacing. You can have a guy like Drew Holiday play the dunker spot. The Mavericks are in a situation where their two bigs that they have now, Gafford and Derek Lively, they don't have any perimeter game. So you need to have other guys in the floor that are elite perimeter shooters.
Snipers.
And the market set that. That's what everyone wants.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay a premium to get that type of player. I don't think they have the ability to pay that premium. So they're going to have to find something in the fringes. I don't know what it can be. I mean, they did a great job this year with reclamation projects. They got Dante Exum off the scrap heap from Europe, and he was like, I know you're looking at like Dante
No. I would say he was a lottery pick. He was supposed to be that guy.
He flamed out, went to Europe, and he was actually really helpful for them this year.
Mm-hmm.
They got a guy like Daniel Gafford who wasn't thought of super highly, and he played an excellent role. They've found ways to make, find not diamonds, maybe like emeralds in the rough. But they're going to have to do that again. And I agree that's a spot where you're going to want to improve, maybe like a Derek Jones Jr. spot, replace his spot in the starting lineup and get a better stretch shooter who can play some defense. He's a little more switchable.
Yeah, it's slim pickings. I'm looking at this year's upcoming free agents. Granted, there's over 200 of them, top tier being, and this is even really top tier. This is just people that have names, but it's Clay, Paul George, Siakam. He's probably going to re-sign with Indy though. Gordon Hayward kind of lost himself in OKC. We know DeMar is a decent two-way, but like these aren't names that are going to get you to a championship. These are just filler positions that you have to pay a premium to get. Paul George can get you to a championship, but that's about it, right? Like all these other names that you're looking at, they're not him, unfortunately. So it's going to be tough for them to find that type of player unless they randomly find somebody in the draft, which I don't think this is it.
Well, Tim Hardaway Jr. is an expiring contract, so maybe they can find a team that wants to go the opposite direction and make a trade, give them an expiring contract, maybe like a Jeremy Grant. If they can leverage Jeremy Grant from Portland. I know like that's an ugly looking contract. Maybe they can give Hardaway for Grant some other stuff. Get a guy like that where, yeah, the contract sucks, but if you're trying to win a championship now, bite the bullet and pay that luxury tax and save Portland a little bit of cash. Maybe, I don't know what their draft assets look like, but maybe send them a draft pick and something like that. I think that's their best bet, is to try to find a team looking to rebuild and go from there.
This NBA off season is going to suck. There ain't gonna be no drama. The free agents are just terrible. The draft is terrible. We might as well just skip to just the regular season because there ain't. I'm looking at these names like, if I'm a GM, I'm not paying anything to what these guys are asking. Like, I'm good. I'll wait off until next year if we need a free agent, if we need a draft pick. Y'all want these picks? You can have them. Let me get next year's because these are not good names.
Someone's gonna get overpaid because the cap's going up.
Thompson's gonna get overpaid. I wouldn't be surprised if like the Lakers reach out to him to try to get him. And I love Klay Thompson, but he's not the answer. He's not the guy that's going to get you to a championship.
We'll talk about off-season intriguing storylines in a moment. And just on the flip side, in the Celtics, first, actually, I don't even want to ask you what they should add because I feel like we've already discussed that. Like they're pretty much set in stone. They have their core six, and they'll have a little bit on the edge. By the way, random just aside on the Celtics, I wrote a note down. Did Peyton Pritchard carve out a new niche NBA role?
What, the half court shooter?
Half court specialist.
Just put him in at halftime or right before halftime and have him shoot from
That dude's
half court.
insane. Two like ridiculous buzzer beaters from like half court in the NBA Finals.
That's his role, man. Hey, look, if you could get 10 minutes out of somebody that's 6 foot and you know that he's good for at least 1 or 2 threes, shout out to those that took the over.
Played 1 minute.
Yeah, I know. I was just about to say, shout out to those that took Peyton Pritchard for 2 or more threes last night, and all he did was cash a half court 3. Sorry that you guys took that bet because I saw it, and I know that some of the people that I know took that bet. So I apologize that he didn't see any more minutes besides just the sub in, drill a half court 3, and then that was it.
He's on pace. He was on pace for 48 threes in the game. One
3 a minute.
48 threes. But for the Celtics, what do you think their chances are of repeating next year?
And this is being said, which I know people that you're a hater. No, I think they have as high of a chance as Golden State did running it back when they had KD, but I'm not going to say that they're the front runner just because they have their team next year. That East is going to be good again. And the East was good this year. There just happened to be something that went through and hit everybody with the injury stick. Like, you're getting injured, you're getting injured, you're getting injured. And as the number 1 seed, you earned the right to the easiest path. So for those that are complaining and say, it's a Mickey Mouse ring, shut up. It got me out here defending the Celtics, and I hate having to do this. But they got the 1 seed, meaning they were the best team in the East. So they deserve to have the easiest road. Along the way to having the easiest road, it got even easier by people being injured. They only play the people that are on their schedule. But next season, Joel Embiid is coming back. Giannis is coming back. We know that Julius Randle and the Knicks are going to be a problem for quite some time by the way that Jalen Brunson has played. There's just other teams that are still going to be good to make them have a run. I'm not saying that they can't repeat. They have a good chance because they're bringing back the whole team, just like KD and Golden State. Wow. Curry, KD. It wasn't Kevin Durant's Warriors. Don't ever say that. But Curry, KD, Clay, and Dre, that team came back, and they had the chance to run it back because they brought everybody back.
I think they should be the favorites to win. Like, if I had to pick a team, I'd pick the Celtics to win. But at the same time,
the odds on in Vegas for sure.
Yeah, like they should be the favorite. But do I think it'll happen? It's going to be really hard. I think you outlined all the points perfectly. They had an easier path this year. I mean, they were still excellent. I looked up some stats. I think all time, this Celtics team was 4th highest net rating all time. Their net rating this year was 11.6. They were tied with the 16-17 Warriors. And the only 2 teams that had a higher net rating of all time were 95-96, 96-97 Bulls. Those are the only 2 teams better than them this year.
They beat the brakes off of the people they played.
Yeah.
Hands down. I didn't even talk about Jimmy and the Heat. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They beat the brakes off of, rightfully so. They always have that slip, and we were waiting for it. It usually happens in game 3. It happened in game 4 this series, but they were able to put those ghosts in the closet and keep them there where it didn't bite them in the ass like it did against the Warriors a couple seasons ago.
They had one of the best net ratings in the playoffs of all time. They weren't as high. They were top 3 regular season. I think they were top 15 playoffs, but I think game 3 of game 4 of the NBA Finals may have skewed that number a little bit, getting blown out that bad. But again, this team's really good. I know they had an easy path, but they are legit. At the same token, it's going to be a lot hard next year. They're going to get pushed a lot more, I think. We're going to see a lot of game 6s, game 7s next year.
A lot of those guys too.
We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I would not put the money on the Celtics to win, but if it was gun to my head, you have to pick a team, I'm picking the Celtics.
Yeah, like I said, I believe they have the best chance out of any because it's been a different champion every year since that Warriors team, right? I think it's been
like
Warriors, then the Raptors, then the Lakers, then the Bucks, then the Warriors again. Last year was
you don't know what that championship. Denver.
Yep, last year was Denver, and then this year was the Celtics. So there's some shit that I can't remember. So it's hilarious that I was able to remember those in a row. But like since that Warriors team, I think out of those teams that have won, they've all been depleted by free agents leaving and not being able to keep their core. If I remember correctly, I guess you can't count the Warriors from a couple seasons ago. That was just like an anomaly. Everybody got hurt.
Andrew Wiggins became a different player after that championship.
True. But I think even when the Warriors won, we weren't like they're back to back. We were like, no, this is the culmination of their dynasty. This was the last one that they could get. You know, the Patriots winning their last one with Brady, right? Like I don't think that they're running it back. And I think the Celtics have the best chance to run it back out of that string of teams that won championships over the last 7 years.
I can't wait. You know, I love the NBA. It's my favorite sport. I actually, weirdly enough, I prefer NBA regular season over the playoffs just because I can watch so many games. I
could bet better. Tell you that.
Yeah. I'm going to be sad that it's gone for another, what is it, comes back in end of October. So we're out like 4 or 5 months of NBA. It makes me sad. But there was some off-season stuff, which is always exciting. NBA is all about the drama of the transaction and all that stuff. I am curious. You know, I have a topic segment here about NBA off-season storylines. For you, I'm going to throw off one to start. NBA storylines that interest you in the offseason. I threw out one before we talked on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Paul George, because he has not extended yet. And there are places that want him that have some cap space. Particularly, you know, Philadelphia is the big player in this. And he would be an excellent addition. He would be
perfect.
Everything they wanted Tobias Harris to be and then some.
Get him the hell out of there.
Yeah. So for me, one of my biggest storylines I'm looking forward to see, and I'm not even saying like I want to happen a certain way. This is the whole premise of this is I'm excited to see how this turns out. Paul George is number one on my list.
Okay. I like that.
Do you got any ones that are interested in you? Because if you want a second, I got another one.
Yeah, you can get the second one. I got one brewing, but I don't know if it's premature, but you can go ahead.
My other one is the Cavaliers. What are they going to do? Because they don't have a coach right now. Donovan Mitchell has not signed an extension, so he has one more year left with this team. He can sign an extension if he wants to, has chosen not to. He wasn't happy in Utah. Is he happy here in Cleveland? What are they going to do to make him happy? And if so, does that mean they're going to jettison Darius Garland, potentially Jarrett Allen? Like this team in Cleveland could be looking drastically different by the time the season tips off next year. I'm really intrigued to see what happens in Cleveland with all the pieces, because this could be a complete fire sale if things go wrong.
Yeah, I think it was Bickerstaff. Was that the coach?
Yeah.
Fired? I think that was the wrong move. And Donovan has been a professional with all this. He didn't ask to get traded in Utah. He just played the game of, look, I'm just not going to re-sign with you guys. I'm going to play. I'm if you're going to offer me some bread, sure. And Utah was like, well, we don't want to deal with that. Shipped. He gets to Cleveland. He's doing the same thing. He's like, look, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. I'm going to go out there and hoop for you guys, which he did. Balled his ass off for the Cavs in the playoffs. So like, it's not like he tanked or you know, packed it in. But he's doing the same thing. He's like, look, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. And now you're firing my head coach, like that I had a relationship with, and you want me to rebuild this all over again? Peace, right? So like, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think he wants out, but he's not going to ever verbally say that. I think he's too much of a pro to request a trade. He's just going to play the game of, I'm not going to re-sign with you guys. I don't want to deal with these talks. Just let me hit free agency.
Do you want to throw one in?
I'm just interested in the next step, because as much as I was so against this man in the offseason last year, I'm excited to see the jump to this year, and that's Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio. I think we got to see a glimpse of pure greatness for what he was able to do last year, just from an offensive standpoint. But that next step that he might have defensively, is going to be scary. I don't think anybody wins a defensive player of the year for the next 10 years outside of him. And I think because he's going to be able to impact, we're maybe one more season away from somebody, a superstar, being, I think I can go down there and do something. And that's when it's going to get very, very interesting. Maybe not this year. I don't even think there's anybody in this class, free agency, that if I'm popping the GM to be like, yo, let's bring them in, we'd be like, y'all keep y'all old sorry asses out of here. But next year, if there's some young talent breaching their 4th-year rookie option, maybe they go and help out Victor and they don't lose a beat when it comes to being a contender again because they got Victor in a two-piece.
Yeah, actually, I was going to have as one of my storylines that I'm curious to see how it plays out this offseason is just the Spurs in general and the idea of like, do they approach this offseason as we're going to rebuild one more year? Or do they feel any pressure from Victor in that we want to accelerate this process and try to compete next year? Like, what is going to be the Spurs front office agenda this offseason? I've heard that a name that they're interested in is the aforementioned Darius Garland from the Cavaliers to pair with Victor Wembanyama. I know it's not super exciting and sexy, but it's a really good
Not
quality.
Jeremy Shohan.
Yeah, it's a good quality.
Isolating your best player by not passing him the ball in the post.
So I'm curious, like, what is San Antonio going to do? Do they want to be more aggressive and win? And another thing that I'm very curious about as far as like what they're going to do as far as aggressive, your Los Angeles Lakers, because like
I'm glad you brought that. I didn't want to do it because it was
yeah,
Lakers, but I'm glad you brought that up.
Number one, I think LeBron's not a free agent this year, right? He can opt. He did opt out.
He's a player free agent. Yes, he's a
So
he can opt out. It's his
he
decision.
can technically leave the team if he wants to, if he just wants to nuke it. Like, what are the Lakers going to do? Because LeBron's playing this game and he does this all the time everywhere he goes. He's going to hold your franchise hostage to get what he wants. And what he wants is to win now. Like, he doesn't give a shit about Lakers 2029 pick.
No.
So I'm curious to see what the Lakers do because it's going to be something. Like, something's going to happen in LA.
Has to be a splash.
Whether it be the whole thing blows up, which I think is unlikely, or they take all 3 of those first-round picks they can trade and try to make some crazy ass move. Like, I want to see what happens with the Lakers.
Yeah, me too. I don't know what would be out there for you to get rid of those picks because keep in mind, like, they tried to offer this shit and get rid of Westbrook and they couldn't. It was almost like if they just removed Westbrook from the deal, they would have been able to trade those 3 first-round picks. But because they packaged them in there with them, they were like, nah, teams were like, nah, we're good. We'll pass on Westbrook. But I don't know who's out there this year or going into next season that they could go for those picks. LeBron wants, obviously, JJ. I'm glad they haven't really broke anything because he interviewed with them over the weekend.
Sounds like JJ's the lock though right now.
He probably is, but I'm saying I'm glad that they're letting the finals get there. Get the focus on the finals because we know the media wants to talk LA, and I get sick of that shit where it's like we're talking Lakers on the tip off of the NBA finals. What are we doing? So yeah, I don't know what name is out there. Shea's under contract, so it's not like you're gonna bring in someone like him. Anthony Edwards is obviously under contract. Tyrese Maxey is under contract. These are all names that like I could be like, oh yeah, they're going after them because they're young point guards. But right now, there isn't anybody that's available because it takes 2 to tango, right? Like you got to have somebody that is willing to accept that trade offer for the position that you're looking for. And I just don't see anybody out there that is worth that move. As much as LeBron wants to play chess and move the pieces the proper way, I don't think there's a team that fits their need when it comes to trading with them.
Another storyline I'm curious, this is like more big picture, is like these rich teams, like the teams that have a boatload of assets, are they going to finally break the bank and try to make a push to be a top tier team? So it's the Knicks, it's the Thunder. Those are the 2 teams that have assets for days. I think the Knicks have something like 9 first-round picks in the next 5 years. the Thunder have every team in the NBA and WNBA first round pick in the next 20 years. Like, these teams have the potential to elevate themselves to the next level if they want to find someone who wants to tank and fall back in the standings, like a Brooklyn Nets maybe with Miles Bridges or Mikal Bridges, excuse me, like a Toronto Raptors, like some of these teams that are awful. They can prize superstar players off of them. You're doing
So I can't put on the windy hat, and I don't want to play the what's it from? What show do you watch? X-Files.
Are you talking about Tiger, the Truth Teller?
You might have.
I know this.
So I don't have the hat, but hear me out on this one. What is happening in Phoenix that has happened in Brooklyn? It happened in OKC the first time. It has the potential to happen to land the coming home of our prodigal son.
Oh, we've talked about this before, KD to the Thunder.
I'm not saying that it does, but the stars are aligning again for Kevin Durant to start getting frustrated with his team and be like, I want out. Sam Presti knows that they need another superstar. They got Chet. Chet, you betcha, is not too bad. They got an MVP in Shea. And you get the older veteran bucket getter, NBA champ, and hometown hero Kevin Durant to have his returning moment like a LeBron James to Cleveland. That would be scary for the NBA because that is the move that I could see OKC making more than any team in the NBA when it comes to trying to find a player that gets them to the next step. I don't see him going to New York. I could see Paul George going to Philly, but I also believe that if they put the pieces in the right way and Phoenix goes, look, we just can't do it with Beal, Booker, and Durant. Let's get those picks. Let's get Beal out of there. And Booker, it's your franchise. We're going to try to build around you. Who's to say it doesn't happen, man? Like, throw the book at Phoenix and run this shit back for OKC with your boy.
It doesn't seem like from what I've.
Oh yeah, you got insider talk. Sorry, so
well, just hearing what
I just said.
Reporters are saying, it just seems like the Suns are going to stand pat. Like, they're not going to blow it up. So I don't think it's going to happen.
They're just trading every coach they have and blaming it on the coaches. That's all they're doing.
I'm just curious, are the Thunder and Knicks going to actually finally make a move because they have all these assets and they can. They've just been unwilling to. The last two I have for me, I'm just going to lump them together because I don't think either deserves their own like headline in their own. But pending free agents, I'm curious on what's going to happen with Klay Thompson and what's going to happen with Jimmy Butler. Because those are two. Klay Thompson, not as interesting. I would like to see him return to Golden State just to finish his career there. Someone's going to try to overpay him. I don't think he moves the needle really. So as far as your own franchise, whoever gets him, the Jimmy Butler thing is interesting. I know that we talked about Philly and Paul George. If that doesn't work out, I could absolutely see a Jimmy Butler Philly reunion with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
I could see that. I could also see LA doing something stupid and trying to get Jimmy out of there.
That'd be fun.
It would be a splash, but it wouldn't be. If it resulted in a championship, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, it's because you traded for Jimmy Butler. I'd just be like, damn, like you got another non-shooting player to fit around LeBron, but he's got a name, right? And I love Jimmy Butler. Don't get me wrong, but I could see LA making that move just because nobody expects it. You know, the random trade to go get the superstar player because they don't like to be 7th seed and below like they have been for the past 4 years. This is the splash that gets us back into the top 3 in the West. And then you get into the playoffs and you can't shoot. So I could see them being a player in a move like Jimmy Butler. Not even so much about Klay. I could see them trying to move for Jimmy more than anything.
Yeah, I actually don't think either move, but it would be interesting if either one did, especially Jimmy Butler, because he can still play when he's healthy. All right, D, good show. I don't think there's any more meat on the bone left for the NBA offseason storylines. Let's get out of here quickly. quick before we get out of here, D, are we on next week? Probably not, right?
Yeah, we can take the week off.
Yeah, unless something crazy happens in the sports world and we feel compelled to come back here. But
We're not talking baseball. That's for damn sure.
yeah, we're gonna try our best to not talk baseball. Before we get out here, let's close it out.
The show is coming to an end. But first, it's time to get to anything we've missed. It's closing time. 1 segment, 2 takes. Go.
Closing takes an opportunity for me and D to kind of ISO ball wherever we want with the show. D, I'll start us off. I got a really quick one. It's not super depth and exciting today. Just want to throw out there. I know we talked about the sports calendar being kind of devout now. Lacking of sports. Got to find the proper words. There's a D word I'm thinking of, but I can't think of it right now. If you do like international soccer, I would recommend next couple of weeks check out the Euro 2024. All the best teams across Europe playing. You have your Portugals, your Spains, England, all those good teams, and then the Copa Americana. North and South America, USA is in it. We play on Sunday against Bolivia. This tournament includes teams like Brazil, Argentina, USA, Canada, all the best teams. Get into international soccer while the basketball's all done. You don't want to watch baseball. Best part about it, D, love me in the Euro. A little 12 o'clock kickoff, 3 o'clock kickoff during the workday in the background. Nothing better.
Fair enough. Ronaldinho is actually getting some heat because he said some shit about the Brazilian football team. It's just like, damn, that like soccer or football, they don't care. They don't care who you are. They'll cut your neck off. Like they're ready to like hang that dude. He's like, yo, man, I was joking, but like Ronaldinho is out there trying to defend himself. It's like that man's a legend for the entire country. Leave him alone. All right, I got mine. Mine's not as I would say like interesting, but it's interesting to me because it's the end of the season.
WNBA.
Yeah, man, no WNBA over here though. I'm joking. We're going NBA for this to put a cherry on top of the cake for it. Man, it's the end of an era, and it's tough because it's something that I enjoyed watching. But we saw the last episode of Inside the NBA. For the guys and the crew that were able to put together an incredible pre and post game. I would say synopsis of the primetime game on TNT. We all loved it. Started back in the 90s where Ernie Johnson. EJ was able to run it, basically himself with a couple of different, hosts and whatnot for 10 years. And then the Jet came in, post him winning championships in Houston, right? Kenny Anderson, great mind, great talk, point guard for the NBA. And then they introduced Chuck. We all love Charles Barkley. He joined in 2000. That trio was incredible. They were funny. And, they had the world in a grasp for 11 years until they added Shaq. And I think when Shaq came in, they set the tone for how pregame is for sports. You want it to encompass family, generosity. You want to bring in the entire group, whether they're age 5 or they're age 45. You can bring them in and you can talk sports to people that can understand it. And I think every sport now saw, the comedy they were able to bring, the analytics, and then like a simplistic way of explaining basketball. That every sport is now trying to do that, whether it's the MLB on MLB Network or Fox before their games. The NFL, we see them bringing in talents like Gronk, Brady, previous players to try to get more meat on that bone when it comes to explaining the sport. And now we see the NHL doing this. I watched the Stanley Cup final pregame setup where PK Subban is talking, sports. And it's like they're getting people that are relevant to the sport to connect with their fan base. And it all started with Inside the NBA. So it sucks that it's over. I'm going to miss it. I don't know if NBA on NBC, as much as I love the I miss that. I don't know if Ahmad Rashad and, Bob Costas are going to do what, these guys were able to do on TNT. So much love to the Inside the NBA crew.
I thought they're doing it next year.
No, this was last year.
Okay, I heard something about TNT trying to get a couple games. And there might be some continuation.
If it is, then cool. Thank you. But I know that NBC bought the rights. Disney still has partial because of the whole ESPN connection, which would mean the finals will still be on ABC and whatnot. But TNT no longer holds primary ownership of the primetime games.
Yeah, I'd stay tuned for that. I think there might be a little something. I think Charles said next year is going to be his last year.
Okay.
So there might be a little something still. We'll see.
Well, you could have told me that before I went all, in with that shit. I thought this was the last year for it.
I figured I'd let you ramble for a little bit.
Just let me, come on, man. Well, my information is wrong then. God damn it.
Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I'm probably wrong. But D, good show today. Appreciate having you talk some basketball and making you give props to the Celtics. But as they say, all good things must end. So D, get us out here right.
As we say, when we get up out of here, we couldn't appreciate you guys more. Please make sure that you're listening to us on your ride to work tomorrow, because you can catch us up on all platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can find us on all the socials when it comes to Facebook, the X, formerly known as Twitter. Our website is at the bottom, prisonthegrizz.com. We ain't got no merchandise. We ain't selling you guys nothing, but I'm going to wear my hoodie one day so you guys can get jealous. More importantly, when we're getting up out of here, I like to say it because it's pretty cool around here. Be a friend. Say something nice. You never know what it does for someone. As we're getting up out of here, please make sure y'all take care of y'all mentals. It's the summertime, so take care of y'all physicals. We just had Father's Day, so take care of y'all chicken. Take care of y'all children, and we'll catch y'all on the rebound.
I know what chicken means now.
Peace.
I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. Well, Coach, I mean, listen, we're talking about practice, not a game. We're talking about practice, not a game, not the game that I go out there and die for.